Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Tuesday, April 1st, 2008 installment of the Friendly Neighborhood Glendale Redevelopment Agency. Mr. City Clerk, would you read the roll?
Agency members: Najarian. Here. Quintero. He was here a minute ago. Weaver. Yusefian. Here. Chairman Draymond.
Here. Your report, please.
The agenda for the April 1st, 2008 regular meeting of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency was posted on Thursday, March 27, 2008 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. First item.
Approval of minutes.
Approve the minutes.
Second.
All right. Minutes are approved as submitted. Next item.
Next item is oral communication. Discussion is limited to items not part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the redevelopment agency may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the executive director for investigation and report.
Okay. I have one card for oral communications. Les Hammer.
Les Hammer, Pasadena. I understand that Councilman Weaver leaned on Mayor Najarian to ask for a report on the Korean-American trade agreement, but I urge the redevelopment agency and or the council to oppose this agreement.
I'm going to stop you for a moment, Mr. Hammer. I'm sorry, we won't cut into your time, but I just want to ask, is the issue, the sum and substance of the issue you're planning to address the redevelopment agency regarding the Korean trade issue?
Yes.
Okay. I would ask you to come back either during oral communications for the City Council, because this is not within the purview of the redevelopment agency. And
It was postponed to April.
well, yes, it was that action was continued to the 15th of April, so there will be an opportunity to have a public hearing on that. But this is not a matter within the purview of the Glendale Redevelopment Agency, the Korean fair trade issue. In other words,
I
there has been
understand that it was, according to the story that was published yesterday in the Glendale News Press.
Well, unfortunately, the Glendale News Press, if that's what they ran, was incorrect. I don't know that that's what they ran, but if that's what they ran, they were incorrect.
Well, maybe you're confused, sir, because there was a special meeting that was to take place today, but it's been moved to the 15th. But like Mr.
It was a special hearing, but not under the redevelopment agency, and it was postponed because we are not a full complement of
like Mr. Draymond
council
says, if you want to come tonight at 6, you can speak at oral communications for 5 minutes.
In other words, you need to address the City Council, sir,
Right.
and even though the City Council also makes
We're going on the basis of what was published in the Glendale News Press. I will address the City Council tonight.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, just to clarify, there was a special meeting there was a special meeting today at 2:30 of the City Council. The matter was held over to the 15th. The matter of the trade agreement will not be on tonight's agenda for the City Council, but you can speak to it if you wish under oral communications.
All right. I don't have any other cards for oral communications, so I will close oral communications. Next item.
Business agenda under 6A is Director of Development Services regarding concept and potential terms of a business assistance loan or grant to help retain Milano's Cucina Italiana restaurant in downtown Glendale at 6A1 is motion providing direction to staff.
Mr. Lansfame, let's go to you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the agency, staff received a request for assistance from Milano's restaurant to reestablish itself. They had, for almost 10 years, been on Brand Boulevard. They were unable to renegotiate terms of a lease to continue their existence at 525 North Brand. Since September 2007, the restaurant has been looking for another location, and they have found one. The owners of Milano's, principally Harry Hall is the representative of the ownership group, has requested some assistance to retain the business in the Mid-Brand area. The agency has taken a policy, several times you have looked at it, of not necessarily having pre-designed programs for business retention or business attraction. Rather, you have opted to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So we're before you today with this preliminary request to see if, one, you would like to explore this request and offer some assistance to the business? And if so, what form you would like it to take, how you would like us to structure it. We have structured assistance in many different ways. They're listed in the staff report, from participating in redevelopment projects to providing grants and loans. In this particular case, the restaurant will look to improve an existing space and reestablish Milano's restaurant in the Mid-Brand area. They would like to do it in close proximity to the Alex Theater and then become something of a catering arm for the Alex, so that events that take place at the theater could have a wide variety that this particular restaurant is able to provide that others in the area have not. If the agency is so inclined to go forward, staff would suggest one of three types of assistance packages. Either a loan, this typically, we have done this at the agency's cost of funds, but we can peg that to any index you like. Whatever the return is, the city's return on its investment policy, perhaps you might look to the recent bonds at GWP to see what might be available in terms of rate for us to get those funds, the cost of funds. We would suggest that you structure that over a 7-year period, which is the remaining life of the redevelopment agency, so it would be repaid by the end of the expiration of the central project area. Like any bank or loan, we would look to see who is a guarantor on the loan and what their financial capability is. Second option might be a grant, where you dedicate funds to a certain project, and if those improvements are made, the grant is given to the business with no obligation to repay. A third way would be a combination of those two. Using the principles that you have established with the facade grant program is to provide a grant that is not to be repaid for permanent improvements that help rehabilitate a building, such as facade or paint or awnings, things that are not particular to a tenant. With the balance, you might put together and structure a loan. So that is the report for us. We're looking for you from direction on two things. Number one, would you like us to explore this with the owners of Milano's? And two, what type of structure would you like that to be?
Mr. Starbird.
Mr. Chair, and it seems to me at this point, with what we have as really a general letter requesting help, it seems to me that it's kind of hard for you to give us input on the second item Phil's requested until we've got a little more detail and can take a look at the pro forma and the business plan and see indeed what it is he needs. At that point, we can come back to you and give you some specifics on sort of the economic picture for this venture with him, and to what extent there is a need and justification for anything between the grant and loan, and how that might be structured to work within the pro forma that he'd produced for the business. Do we have a pro forma at all yet, Phil?
We don't, and we talked to the representatives and said that that is something that we would require if you want to go down this road.
So it does seem to me that what we need here is an answer to sort of the first question. If you're interested, then we should sit down with the specific numbers and bring you back within the context of that what we think might work. That could actually be a grant. Maybe that's the only way it does work, or it could be a combination of the two. But without specific numbers, it's kind of hard for you to give us feedback, or us to tell you what seems to work reasonably, or what he's trying to accomplish.
All right. John, any discussion before we go to the public on this? Mr. Yusefian.
I have a question on the facade grant program. How much would they be eligible for?
$40,000 and for actual improvements, and $2,500 for design.
$2,500?
$2,500 for design.
So it's $40,000 plus $2,500.
That would be under our existing facade grant program.
Okay. And how about rental parking assistant grant?
Again, Mr. Yusefian, we have structured those on a case-by-case basis.
Whether there's a need for the parking?
Whether there's a need for it. In that particular case, it was to help attract Outback,
Right.
and the agency picked up a
With
portion
this
of the parking.
facility on the address that it's in here, this facility currently has the parking that's required?
It's our public parking.
It does. I believe it is a legal non-conforming use. The building has been used as a restaurant continuously.
Yeah, they depend on the lot behind
Right.
behind Porto's as well as the Orange Street Garage.
Okay.
Any other questions before we go to the public? None. Thank you, Mr. Lance of Fame. Barry Allen on 6A. I doubt he'll want that.
I'm making sure that you can see me or to see the clock.
I can see you well, Mr.
Thank
Who
you.
are you, Mr. Milano? No. Excuse
There
me.
we go, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Looking at my
And,
clock, Barry.
Yeah, there you go. Make sure, Mr. Najarian, you provide that
Not shaking
forum.
my fist at you.
I understand, I understand. I think that the issue that Mr. Milano, Harry Hull, has brought to the redevelopment agency's attention is a very important one. And I think that we need to set up a process, a structure that not only Milano's, but other affected businesses in the Brand area, from probably that point down to the Americana Galleria, should be able to have some opportunity to get either a loan or a grant, or maybe even the city's encouragement of bringing in outside investment money for them. And I think this is the opportunity for the redevelopment agency to certainly look at this matter and put a procedure and a process in place, rather than just saying, okay, we're going to write a check, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that, and we're going to treat each one on an individual basis. But I think that the fact that Mr. Hall has brought this to the attention, I think it's very important, and I think you need to set up that process. I'm Barry Allen for Event Guardians.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. If no other discussion, then I'd like at least some consensus from the agency members regarding the suggestion of the city manager, or if they have some other concept. Mr. Najarian.
I do like the suggestion that Mr. Allen put forth, creating some sort of process, determinable process by which we can move these requests for assistance through. I do support Mr. Starbird's suggestion that we dig into this a little bit deeper and see what the pro forma would look like, and explore different ways of providing assistance in the particular areas that may be most helpful to Mr. Hall. He has, there's certainly no question about his commitment to the city when he had his restaurant, and even more amazingly so when he has been without his restaurant. He's still at the forefront of supporting the Mid-Brand Merchants Association. So I'd like to see what sort of things he's looking for, whether it's facades, whether it's operating, gap funding for the first few years of operation, to see what projections would be for income, and taking the next step to look at it and moving forward with the general idea of assistance.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Yusefian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will tell you that I will support a facade grant, because that is something that we have done in the agency in that area. So depending on what the design of the facade is, by the way, so proviso. As far as the parking and assistant for that is, that's another thing that I will support, because a restaurant doesn't run just by the people who visit. There's all kinds of chefs and so on and so forth, so you need to have some kind of a permanent parking for them. So maybe we can give them a discount so they can park in the Orange Street garage, so they don't take the valuable space behind Porto's restaurant. The other thing is, I'm very much interested in some type of a low-interest tenant improvement loans. That's what I'm interested in. I'll be willing to move in that direction after we see pro forma provided to the staff. Not that I don't trust Mr. Milano, but I just want to make sure that he makes enough money he can pay the loan back. And so that's where I'm at.
Mr. Quintero.
I'm happy for the staff to explore the different possibilities and come back and talk about it.
All right. I would just like to add, I also join my colleagues in actually supporting Mr. Allen's suggestion. I do think we need a program for development of that sort. I don't think that necessarily that we should put Mr. Hall on a back burner while that process moves forward. And I'm not saying that that's what Mr. Allen was suggesting, or my colleagues either. I just, for the record, I want to make that clear. I may support a facade improvement, parking, low-interest loans, and other things. I just need to know more. I need to know exactly what it is that the request is for. So at this point, I would support the first part, which is essentially whether or not we want to consider a business assistance package of some sort to be defined to help Milano's Cucina Italiana at a new location. I'm not sure that it would be prudent for me to support Part 2 until I know what is involved. So I do think we need some more information.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
I'll second.
All right, so this is instruction. So we don't need a vote, I assume, or we do? Yeah, we have a consensus.
Got a motion. Don't need it. Yes, we know what the direction is.
Okay. And I'd like to add that I'd like to, because this deals with a specific property, and as someone who has spent quite a bit of time with small business entities in this city, that means there's a time-sensitive nature to this. So, right. Okay. All right? Okay. Very good. Next item.
Is there any member or staff comments?
Move to adjourn for agency.
Second.
We are in adjournment. Thank you.
Okay, and our last meeting of the afternoon